Okay, we're back. We're back. We're back. So yeah, I wanted to change the title. There's a lot of things going on back home. Let's start with Donald Trump conviction. Kamala Harris shuts down Trump over conviction. Never actually saw this before. Let's take a look. Oh wow, Barbara, appreciate you. Barbara hopped on and gave me some likes right away. I really appreciate you. The reason I want to cover this is because this kind of goes to the whole constitutional right, First Amendment audit situation. If they can come after him, regardless you like him, don't like him, however you feel, if they can come after a president of the United States, what could they come after you for? Regarding property tax, uh, starting up your own business. How many of us all know people who've been in business, whether they were in business for years or a couple months. COVID came, wiped people completely out. The government has way too much power. The original concept of the government was to ease issues, make sure neighbors didn't have problem with neighbors. Um, Government didn't overstep their boundaries. Whether you like this guy or not, what's going on with him kind of overshadows how the government feels their vantage point in society. If they could do this to him, what can they do to anybody else? So I never saw this thing with Kamala Harris. I'm gonna take a look.
I'm joined now by the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris. Thanks so much for joining me.
It's good to be with you, Brian. Thank you.
So, obvious question. You've been a prosecutor. You were a prosecutor for 30 years almost. Your reaction to the Republican nominee for president being a 34-time convicted felon, and for his party, a party that brands itself the law and order party, falling over themselves to back him.
Well, let's level set. So, 6-week trial, 12 jurors of his peers, unanimously returned verdicts on 34 felony.
The Central Park Five were convicted by a jury of their peers. It was later found that they were all completely innocent of those crimes. Actually, when it comes to the Central Park Five, I believe one of them committed suicide, another became a drug addict, and another one became a career criminal, all after going through the situation of the criminal justice system being fair and basically ruined 5 people's lives. So when she sits here and she says, he went through a jail, who, first off, really and truly, let's be honest, who is Donald Trump's peers? The guy's a billionaire and a former U.S. president. He doesn't have any peers. There's nobody I could think of that's on par with him. The guy doesn't really have any peers. But she's trying to say the justice system does what it's supposed to do. There's millions and millions of cases where people have been locked up for things they didn't do. And in this situation, a lot of people, what's going on, especially in politics, is they're saying that Biden and essentially politicians are starting to weaponize the justice system. So using FBI, Homeland Security, um, DEA, all these justice institutions, even that, everything. They're starting to weaponize it to use it to go against their political opponents. So when she says all these things about the justice system, I look at it with a kind of quirky eye, yeah, sure.
counts. They reviewed evidence, they reviewed the law. His attorney actively participated in choosing that jury. His defense attorney actively made decisions about which witnesses to call, actively engaged in cross-examining the prosecution's witness, and they returned a verdict. And, I think that when you look at what we've seen as the response from the former president and his allies, I mean, their criticism of a system that is a fair system speaks, I think, badly about how
Fair system.
they prioritize the rule of law in America. The way I break it down is this. I think that part of what you can attribute to the response that you're getting from him is, cheaters don't like to get caught, and they don't like to be held accountable.
Now, switching gears a little bit, Byron Donalds came out recently and kind of perplexingly expressed a kind of nostalgia for the Jim Crow era, notwithstanding the fact that Byron Donalds himself is Black, notwithstanding the fact that he's in an interracial marriage. Can you speak on this eagerness to embrace racism that's pervaded the GOP, especially among the unlikeliest of figures?
Yeah, she literally just said that. The justice system is fair. Right? Like, we've seen people, regardless of not what you think about the guy, George Floyd, Tamir Rice, this is just off the top of my head, Trayvon Martin. We've seen justice replay itself 100 times, so it's funny that she would sit here with a bold face and tell us what she's telling us.
I mean, when I look at just what's happening coming out of elected officials from Florida, let's just start there.
Yeah.
Book bans. Now, the idea in 2024, we have book bans, which have focused on, for example, LGBTQ characters and authors, which are focusing on an attempt to erase, if not rewrite, America's history writ large, especially on the issue of race, the origins of slavery, the impact of slavery, and now to have someone, perpetuate that kind of approach.
It's funny that she's the perfect person. She could say it because I think she's like half Black, half whatever, but she mentions slavery like forget the history, whatever spiel she's trying to put here. America was built on slavery. I'm not one of the people who agree or push for it, but thousands and thousands of people have requested reparations for ancestors of slaves. So she uses this point to push her point, but she's the vice president of the president. She could put something into place. Yeah, this lady's completely like a snake. And it's funny because there was a point.
Just essentially, again,
I'll be right back.
To attempt to erase or rewrite America's history. It is, I think, inexcusable at the highest level.
Donald Trump, too. I mean, this is going all the way up to the top of that party. Donald Trump himself has basically predicated his Black outreach by associating people of color with criminality. Do you think that that's going to be an effective approach as we head toward November?
Absolutely not. And it's insulting.
Moving over to the issue of Dobbs, of abortion, June 24th is going to mark the 2-year anniversary of Dobbs. Republicans just this past week blocked a vote in the Senate to guarantee access to contraception, with only Murkowski and Collins crossing over. Can you speak about, I guess, as clearly and definitively as you can, what it would mean for contraception if Trump and Republicans took over?
I think that when you look at the blueprint for this, there are a couple things you can understand in terms of who's to blame and what's happening. You can look at the former Trump presidency, right? Former President Trump's presidency, and when he was presented with the notion of a national ban, said that he would support it and sign it if it came to his desk when he was president. He hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade.
Has bragged about that.
And they did as he intended, and he has since bragged about how proud he is of what he did. I also would point to the decision that court rendered undoing the protections of Roe, taking basic freedoms from the American people. Clarence Thomas, a member of the United States Supreme Court, said the quiet part out loud in that decision, which is that contraception was very much on the table. Not to mention Obergefell.
She mentioned justice system, right? Tommy V, appreciate you, G. How do I get this thing down? Oh, crap. I need to put on Do Not Disturb. Okay. Appreciate you, Tommy. So she just talked about the justice system, right? She's the vice president of the United States. Let's do this. Is it legal to cross the USA border So, she just says the justice system works fine, it's good. She's the vice president of the president, Joe Biden. I asked Google if it's legal to cross into the U.S. border. Crossing the U.S. border between ports of entry is dangerous and illegal. Migrants should be illegal, but they've changed the word to migrants face many dangers along the journey. Smugglers, criminals, cartels, and bad actors prey on vulnerable migrants who risk kidnapping, extortion, and other threats to their personal safety. Now, let's look at another thing. Before I had a YouTube channel, I would always see these statistics for some reason. Daily news and everything, they always like to send it to me. Let's take a look. A lot of people probably never thought about this. How much money do what is going on? Taxpayers pay for illegal immigrants' legal fees. So, before I hit go, not only do they cross into the country illegally, but whatever legal fees they incur. So if they get arrested for crossing illegally, they get jailed. We pay for the jail, we pay for the food, we pay for the legal fees. We pay for, if they get deported, we pay for the plane that takes them back to their country. So, again, my mother, I've said this a million times, I always like to put things in context. My mother was an illegal, no. My mother was not an illegal. My mother came here, I'm not sure on what type of visa, but she met my father, and she had me. Voila. That's one of the legal entries into America. I believe she came on a tourist visa, visited a mom, had me, boom. She got her green card, was able to stay here, and has been paying taxes ever since, even before she had me. Right? What happens here is you do something illegal, and then the American taxpayers have to take the bill. Here where I am now in Thailand, right? The amazing thing about Thailand is, let's say You're walking down the street. Somebody robs your cell phone from you, right? They rob your cell phone. They hit you in the head. They rob your cell phone. They hit you in the head. Take your money. Police catch them. In America, we have this weird system where you pay a debt to society, which is really paying a debt to the government. Here in Thailand, let's say somebody robbed you for your phone. Let's say your phone was $1,000. When you go to court, you have the ability to request a reasonable sum. So he robbed me of my phone, which is illegal. My phone was 1,000. I want 2,500 to repay it. Also, he knocked me to the ground, pain and suffering. On top of that, let's just say 6 grand total, right? That person goes to jail in Thailand. They go to jail and they have to do hard labor until they pay off the fees that you requested in court. So how we have private prisons where people pay for commissary, people pay for phone calls to call their families back home. What happens here is essentially you have to pay off the victim. You go to jail and you have to pay off the victim or their family. If you murdered somebody and their father was a breadwinner, and let's say you might have to pay 200,000 Thai baht, which is only like 50K for the next 10 years, but you have to pay it off in order to get out of jail, unless your family puts it up. So you have to compensate the victim, not society. You have to compensate the victim. So one of the things I saw somebody say was that when people come here illegally and they get caught, why don't they have to pay a debt back to, like how American criminals have to pay a debt back to society? Why don't illegals have to pay the same? So let's look at what the number is, right? Border crisis. They don't even have it here anymore. They don't even have it. Illegal immigration costs taxpayers about $1,000 a piece. I'm pretty sure it's more than that. I wanted to get a nice round number. Okay. NBC 24. I'm gonna move the comments because I can't see. Let me switch right here. So, Republicans have been hammering the Biden administration over what they say is a crisis resulting from radical open border policies. I want to get to the money. I saw something like 31 billion, and I'm sure that's probably only for a year. One estimate from Federation of American Immigration Reform found that illegal immigration costs every American taxpayer a net average of $956 million. FAIR found that illegal immigration imposes around 182 billion in federal and state local costs. Immigrants pay about 31 billion in taxes, which work out to about 150 billion net load on American resources. And the immigrants pay. What do they mean? The immigrants pay 31 billion. I don't understand that. Another estimate cited Republicans from the Center of Immigration Studies said immigration cost about as much as 451 billion. The cost of illegal immigration is greater than the annual gross domestic product of 15 states reported. So they would essentially, what they're saying there, the Center for Immigration Studies, is that basically 15 states. If it was just 15 states in America, they would put those 15 states in a Great Depression. Like they'd be shut down. They wouldn't be able to afford the bill. So you could just put that in perspective. Official figures from Customs and Border Protection show about 2.48 million Southwest border encounters. And that's the other thing, right? So on top of us having to pay legal fees, and housing and deportation bills, right? Let's take a look at this. Take a look at this. No. How do I want to say it? How do I want to say it? What up, Easy? What up, Gato? Appreciate you hopping in here, Easy. Swap Peters. Appreciate you. But yeah, just completely lost my train of thought. Border Patrol. How much does Border Patrol make a year? Border Patrol. U.S. Border Patrol. That was a stupid way to act, right? What is the annual budget for U.S. Border? Come on, spell correct never helps me out. Border Patrol. So, on top of the, what was it? 1.5, no, it was 400 something billion that we pay for illegals. We pay $4.9 billion to Border Patrol to keep the border safe. What sense does that make? So we're paying Border Patrol $4.9 billion to keep the border safe. Meanwhile, all the illegals that get across, where's that number? Where's that number? Where's that number at before? Where was the article? Where's this article? 1.82 billion. How are you paying? It's like paying a it's like paying for pest control, right? It's like, imagine paying for pest control. Like you're trying to keep an exterminator. You're trying to keep rats and mice out your house. You pay them $1,000 a year to keep rats and mice out of your house. But the rats and mice that get in your house, it costs you 10 grand a year to take care of them that get in. What's the point of even having border control? They're clearly not doing what they're supposed to do. So yeah, where were we? She's talking, and she's here talking about the system. how fair it is. You guys are openly welcoming illegals. Meanwhile, the price of groceries going up. Price of groceries going up. McDonald's, they're saying you pretty much got to be a middle class to wealthy family to afford McDonald's in America. How does that make sense, right? It all adds up, right? Groceries, rent, MTA's trying to now hammer people in New York. Anybody from New York, you guys understand what the MTA's trying to do? They're trying to even now like ban driving downtown in the city. Gonna congest the trains. The trains are already congested as heck. So, price. Can Americans spelled that wrong? Hopefully they'll fix it. Afford McDonald's. 80% of Americans can't afford fast food. McDonald's leaving California. Come on, can we get a quick, let's go here.
If you've had a craving for fast food lately, you may have got sticker shock at the drive-thru.
You know, it's supposed to be cheap, quick, and an easy option, but now, as Teresa Priolo shows us, some price hikes seem to have a lot of people asking, why is fast food getting so expensive?
There's no denying how delicious a fresh batch of Mickey D's fries are. Piping hot, perfectly salted, and also more expensive than ever.
I buy the mac chicken sandwich. It was like $1 something. So right now it's $3, almost $4.
As inflation continues to wage war on Americans of every income and wallet size, it's also hitting what traditionally had become the cheaper option. But for many, that's no longer the case.
The average working man is not able. I'm eating a $2 hamburger and a small fries because I can't afford, $10, $12, $14 for a meal.
The reality is the cost of goods and services is taking its toll. From the cost of beef.
Meanwhile, people are coming in illegally, getting hotels, bus tickets, plane tickets, price of gas for Americans. Two years ago. Come on, bro. Give me something more recent. Let's go up to the shorts. Come on. Oh, man. There's no shorts. McDonald's president speaks on inflation.
All righty, let's move on to McDonald's, which is defending itself now after getting some bad press online over its prices. Kate Rogers is here with this story. Last we heard about McDonald's, Kate, they were introducing a low-priced value meal, super value.
Yeah, upcoming $5 value bundle. That's right, Tyler. And we all know there's been a lot of talk and focus on both inflation and value in the fast food space in recent weeks. Now, McDonald's U.S. President Joe Erlinger speaking out in an open letter shared this afternoon. Erlinger says the company has seen viral social posts and poorly sourced reports that it has raised prices, quote, significantly beyond inflation.
I tell everybody this, right? We all lucky. The one thing about being an American is we generally mostly come. There's some form of immigration. Again, that's why I always remind people I'm not against immigration, but you doing something illegal should never cost me any money. It should never cost me any money. They don't allow. They even here still now. I know a couple people. They opened up. They took the time, paid the rent. Opened up weed shops in New York. Government comes and shut them down because of one little document that's off. You letting people jump the border and then you're shutting down good businesses that are paying taxes. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Airbnb was my go-to thing in America, in New York. So many people in New York that I knew. You don't want to deal with a tenant. Somebody comes in your place on, again, no issue with nobody on anything, but somebody comes in your place on welfare or Section 8, and then they stop paying the rent, and you can't get them out for 3 years. A lot of people were doing Airbnb to make good money. You got a spare room, you got a spare apartment that's not connected to your apartment. People were making good money, able to provide for their family and paying taxes on those same places. New York comes and shuts it down. Miami comes and shuts it down. LA, I believe, also comes and shuts it down. Why can't the little guy find a way to make a little money to get above water? See, that's when I'm with doing First Amendment audits. I love it. It's worked out so many eyes, but at the same time, there's deeper conversations that need to be had. How is it that the government for me, it started there. But I see all these things. What's happening with Trump? I'm not the biggest fan of the dude, but when I see them come after him like that, what would they do to us? What would they do to me? Would they do to you? 10 times worse. He's a white billionaire man from America. If they're gonna slam the door on him like that for freedom of speech, for business, how much business does he bring to New York? You want to shut him down, kick him out? What is that gonna do to the people who are working there? I believe he has over 15. You see the 1,500 or 15,000 employees. Don't seem like you give too much, crap about New York. It seems like you got a vendetta against one dude. And as we know with the government, you make them look foolish once, they'll come after you forever. But let's get back to the inflation.
Inflationary rates, which he says is inaccurate. Erlinger says, I can tell you that it frustrates me and worries me and many of our franchisees when I hear about an $18 Big Mac meal being sold, even if it was at one location in the U.S. out of more than 13,700. More worrying, though, is when people believe that this is the rule and not the exception, or when folks...
Well, that's what I was going to say. I went off on a tangent. Guys, the best thing you can do, whether you Caribbean, whether you Latin, Hispanic, wherever you have family back home, start a business. Open up a hotel. Open up a little hotel. You from Puerto Rico, send the money back home. You from DR, you from Brazil, you from Ecuador, you from Panama. Take your money and send that money back home and open up a little business. Because at the end of the day, I see it firsthand. I go here, I go there, I go to all these different countries. The American dollar, every time I go, keeps getting lower and lower. Lower and lower. Right now, I'm in the process of trying to look at a little, I don't want to say too much, but a little something in Bahrain. They got either the first or the second highest currency in the world. America, I don't know what's going on. I try to look at it and see like the master plan of what they're doing with immigration, with inflation, bank interest rates. If anybody knows anything about that, like you can't even get a place. The rent is going up. I'm trying to see the end plan that like helps Americans, and at the end of the day, I think they just want us all out. For the longest time, they've printed articles and people have spoken about the fact that like, if you're not rich, they just want you out in New York. And I'm seeing it for the first time. Like the Airbnb thing, I'm always in and out of hotels, man. There was a time you could get a hotel in New York, not a 5-star, like just some in and out type thing you need for a couple of days. Could have got that for like $80, $70, $100, $120 the most. You can't find a hotel now in New York less than 180. And that's part of the fact of what they did with Airbnb. They shut us, not just me, everybody down. People were making good money. That's how some people I know, they were retired. You retired, you only on Social Security, you didn't have a 401k, or you didn't have a pension, you're making a little money off the Airbnb you got on it. Nope, they shut that down. So now people are resorting to things. A lot of people that I never thought would do things are doing things they wouldn't normally do. But again, you're shutting down pretty much legal businesses while you're making taxpayers foot the bill for illegal immigrants. It doesn't make any sense. No sense at all. So I suggest everybody, you have some family in Puerto Rico, DR, Trinidad, Bahamas, start a little something over there. Because the money here in New York, and I mean in America, is going down and down every year. Every year. I remember when I first went to DR, it was like 55 pesos you get for $1. The last time I went, it was at like 46. $1 got you like 46. That was like maybe last year or the year before. So telling everybody, man, stack up, put your money in gold, let it sit, because that dollar's dropping like what happened in Venezuela. Everybody look up what happened in Venezuela. Look what happened to Greece. The reason they all come in here is because their country was just mismanaging the money. Inflation, depressions, joblessness, crashed the whole economy.
Start to suggest that the prices of a Big Mac have risen 100% since 2019, which he says is not true. But in the same letter, Erlinger did acknowledge that higher costs and growing wages have caused McDonald's menu prices to rise. In 2019, a Big Mac cost $4.39. Now it's $5.29 on average, up 21%.
I mean, you can see the inflation right here in front of your face. And don't just look at this as McDonald's. Look at this as your money. So in 2019, $4.39 got you a burger, a Big Mac. This is the same Big Mac, and we using the same dollar. It's almost $1 more. It's 10 cents short of being $1 more. Is that the rate of the economy that you want to see? Because again, the dollar, this is the same thing that happened in Venezuela, the same thing that happened in Greece. You got the numbers right in front of your screen. Look at that. A 10-piece nugget is $2 more. They ain't giving you no more chicken, and you're using the same dollar. That means what you had in 2019 is $2 less. If you had a bank account with the same amount of money in it, you essentially lost $2. You've been working the same. You've been doing a 9 to 5 the same. But your money's changing. Your money's going down, not up. It's right here. They telling you this. It's not a conspiracy theorist. It's not somebody wearing a foil hat. They're telling you this. $2. You lost $2 in a span of 5 years.
2019, an Egg McMuffin cost $3.49. That's now $4.29 on average. That's a 23% increase. And 2019, a 10-piece McNugget.
But I remember when a $1 menu got you a McDouble. That got me through my teenage years. You got a McDouble for $1. $3.18. That's when tax was like 8 cents. $3.18 would have got you 3 McDoubles. You'd be full for hours. Not no more.
Average $7.19. That's now $9.19. That's a 28% jump. Erlinger says these increases are on par with the industry's rates, but the fact that McDonald's is addressing it at all kind of speaks to the narrative out there right now that fast food has gotten really expensive. It's really rare to kind of see an executive come out and say this is not true. These are the facts. This is how much costs have actually gone up. Here's why.
$9.19 for a 10-piece
Yeah,
nugget
I mean,
meal.
so was there or was there not an $18 Big Mac meal? This is the question question for the jury, ladies and gentlemen.
I hope I'm not on trial here, but my recollection is that this was at one location, as earlier mentioned. I believe the New York Post had it, and I want to say it was in Connecticut, but I could be wrong. Yes, exactly. But it was at a rest stop location. It was one location. Reminder, franchisees do have the ability here to set their own prices. There are different wage factors, supply chain factors, et cetera, that go into some of these costs. But now this $5 value platform will be offered at all locations because the franchisees agreed to it. That's going to run for a month. And Burger King, don't forget, has its own competing $5 bundle.
Are the franchisees happy about this $5 meal, or are they not going to be able to make any money off it?
It's a month-long promotion, Tyler, and I did report last week that an independent advocacy group of McDonald's franchisees was pushing for corporate to kick in once the 1 month timeline was up to keep this on the menu for longer, because they do argue in order for this to be sustainable and affordable, rather, for customers, it needs to be affordable for them as well. So we'll see if it sticks around.
Thank you very much, and thanks for giving me another reason to stay off the Merritt Parkway. Appreciate it.
I never saw. I wasn't around for French fries for 25 cents. I wish. Jesus Christ. Nah, you're right. At the end of the day, we shouldn't be eating fast food. But for me, being in New York, moving around, I can't lie and say I don't eat it. Like, even dollar pizzas are no longer a dollar. It's insane. Hundreds of U.S. banks at risk of failing. Bank of Canada cuts interest rates. I don't know why they keep showing me Canadian news. Like, I'm not Canadian. I should say U.S., right?
Hundreds of small and regional banks across the U.S. are feeling stressed. More than 280 banks face the dual threat of commercial real estate loans and potential losses tied to higher interest rates.
There's no doubt in my mind there's going to be more bank failures.
Or at least dip below their minimum capital requirement.
There will be bank failures, but this is not the big banks.
Rapid interest rate hikes can mean borrowers suddenly face more expensive loan payments. And if they can't afford to pay up, they may default on their loans. A record $929 billion worth of loans are coming due, aka maturing, in 2024, driven by mass extensions of loans originally due in 2023. Regulators are working behind the scenes with potentially at-risk lenders.
They're issuing sort of confidential, under-the-radar reports saying you got to raise your capital.
We'll see a lot fewer bank failures than we would otherwise if we're successful in attracting private capital to recapitalize these banks.
These are banks that probably need to raise capital, or they can try to get acquired by a stronger bank.
However, banking sector acquisitions have dwindled. These stressed banks could have big implications for the U.S. economy.
In 1 year since the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank.
Of course, we're seeing cracks form once again. A year.
No, what it is, I put the wrong thing. U.S. mortgage. Wow. I didn't even need to finish it. Mortgage crisis. Buying a house in the U.S. is so hard right now.
When you buy a home in the U.S., there is a basic promise that home values will go up over time. And that is what you're seeing on this chart. That's adjusted for inflation. Okay, jerkier, but still basically goes up. The story goes like this. Money by itself loses value over time. That's inflation. But if you own your home in the U.S., you own an asset that is appreciating in value. Buying it probably required you to save a bunch of money and also borrow a lot of money, which you need to pay back over time, as opposed to renting your home, which basically just requires rent. But now you own.
Too much. Way too much. We don't want to sit through that long video. But essentially, oh wow, they freed more Israeli hostages? Uploaded to Rumble. I did not upload it to Rumble. I'll be back. I gotta try to figure out how to upload my YouTube to my Facebook to this page. I'll be back. Let me see. Let me just look in the messages. Will they be there? Not this one. Not even the right one. This guy is so annoying. He finds every channel I have and messages me. Pretty freaking annoying. Trying to sell me something. Alright, I'll be back. I'll try to upload my other Facebook so I could go through. I got a whole bunch of reels that are insane. I'll be back.